There's a battle that never makes noise, the one that happens inside your mind. You can walk through a quiet morning, coffee in hand, and still feel the storm raging within. Thoughts spin, questions rise, and even in moments that should bring peace, something inside keeps running, searching for control, for certainty, for safety. But peace, real peace, doesn't begin when the world around you slows down. It begins when your mind bows before God. The Apostle Paul once urged believers to lift their thoughts, to set their minds on things above, not on things below, because he knew how easily the human mind can become trapped in the dust of daily life, chasing worries, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes that may never come. When your thoughts are chained to the noise of the earth, your soul forgets the sound of heaven. And yet, God doesn't scold you for being anxious. He calls you closer. He whispers, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." Not just for your body, but for your mind, your emotions, the inner world that few ever see. There's something sacred about surrendering the mind. It's not the same as shutting it off or pretending everything's fine. It's choosing to release what was never meant to be carried alone. It's the quiet courage of saying, "Lord, I don't have to understand everything. I just have to trust you." That kind of surrender isn't weakness. It's worship. When your mind begins to drift toward fear, you can gently bring it back. Not by force, but by faith. You remind yourself, God is still on the throne. His peace isn't fragile. His presence isn't far. Isaiah once spoke about perfect peace, not the kind that depends on circumstances, but the kind that flows from trust. He said that the one whose mind is steadfast on God will be kept in peace, because trust anchors the heart where storms can't reach. And maybe that's where you are right now, tired of overthinking, tired of replaying mistakes, tired of living every day with your mind clenched around problems it can't fix. But what if peace was never something to achieve, only something to receive? When you let your thoughts rest on what's true, pure, and good, you begin to notice how your perspective shifts. You start seeing life not through the fog of fear, but through the light of faith. You remember that the one who created the mind also knows how to quiet it. He's not asking you to ignore reality. He's inviting you to lift your thoughts higher, to see through his eyes, where mercy still triumphs over failure, and every unanswered question finds its meaning in his presence. Sometimes that surrender happens in silence. You sit, eyes closed, and breathe. You tell him everything that hurts, every thought that won't quiet down. And in that moment, something begins to soften. Not outside you, but within. The burden lightens. The noise fades. Peace becomes a person again. Not an idea, not a technique, but a presence that fills the room. Because when you surrender your mind, you make space for God's mind to lead you. Maybe that's what faith truly is. Not the absence of questions, but the decision to place your thoughts in the hands of the one who understands them better than you ever could. So today, take one thought captive at a time. When fear speaks, answer with trust. When confusion rises, pause and breathe. And when your mind starts running again, don't chase it. Lift it. Lift it to the one who never loses peace. Lift it to the one who still says, "Come to me." And do you know what happens when you begin to live like that? When you stop trying to control every thought and instead let him shape them, you begin to taste the rest your soul was made for. You start to see that peace isn't somewhere far away. It's already here, waiting for your surrender. There is a quiet miracle that happens when you stop fighting your thoughts and start surrendering them. Your mind was never meant to be your master. It was created to be a servant, a vessel through which the Spirit of God can speak, create, and perceive truth. But when fear takes the driver's seat, the mind becomes a restless wanderer. It jumps from worry to worry, chasing shadows, never finding home. And yet, God calls you to something different, a peace that surpasses understanding, not a peace that ignores reality, but one that reigns within it. When Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me," he was speaking of the mind as much as the soul, because to learn from him is to think as he thinks, with humility, compassion, and trust. His mind was never in a hurry, never anxious, never driven by fear of what might happen. Even in storms, he rested. Even when others panicked, he listened. And he invites you into that same stillness. But how do you get there, in a world that never stops talking? How do you quiet a mind that's been trained by years of distraction? It begins with focus. Not the kind that strains, but the kind that surrenders. You turn your attention from what is temporary to what is eternal. You let go of the need to solve everything, and you start by worshiping instead of worrying. Philippians teaches us to think about what is true, noble, and pure. Because what you dwell on determines what you become. Your thoughts are like seeds, and the soil of your heart is always ready to receive them. If you sow fear, you'll live in anxiety. But if you sow gratitude, truth, and praise, peace will begin to grow almost unnoticed. You might not feel it immediately. The world won't suddenly get quiet. But something inside you will begin to change. You'll start recognizing which thoughts come from God and which come from fear. You'll notice that not every thought deserves your attention. Some are invitations from heaven. Others are distractions from hell. The key is learning to pause long enough to discern the difference. Imagine your mind as a river. You can't stop the water from flowing, but you can choose which thoughts to hold on to and which to let pass. That's what it means to renew your mind. Not by controlling every thought, but by surrendering them into the current of His Spirit. And as you do, you'll find rest. Not because the noise disappears, but because you're no longer living from it. You begin living from peace, not toward it. There's a beautiful truth hidden in that peace isn't a reward for perfect control. It's a fruit of perfect trust. When your mind rests in God, He guards it like a fortress. The chaos may still roar outside, but it cannot break through. And slowly, what once felt like an endless battle becomes sacred ground. A place where His presence meets your thought, again and again. Perhaps this is what it means to think on things above, not to escape the earth, but to bring heaven's calm into the middle of your ordinary moments. In the kitchen, on the road, in the waiting rooms of life, because every thought that turns toward God becomes a doorway to peace. So, next time your mind feels restless, remember, you don't have to fight it alone. You don't have to earn calmness. You simply have to return, again and again, to the one who never left. Let Him retrain your thoughts. Let Him rewrite your patterns. Let Him become the still center in your restless world. And do you know what happens when your mind begins to rest in Him? You start to see that peace isn't the absence of thought. It's the presence of trust. You begin to realize that rest isn't found by escaping the noise, but by dwelling in the one who never changes. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of rest your soul has been searching for all along. Surrender is not the end of thinking. It's the beginning of renewal. When you hand your thoughts over to God, you are not losing your mind. You are letting Him redeem it. He takes what has been shaped by fear, guilt, and exhaustion, and he breathes peace into it again. And slowly, thought by thought, you begin to see as he sees. The mind is like a garden. What you plant in it will grow. If you let anxiety scatter its seeds every morning, don't be surprised when your days bloom with restlessness. But when you plant truth, gratitude, and prayer, even in the smallest moments, the landscape of your mind begins to change. Weeds of fear lose ground, and the fragrance of peace starts to fill the air. That's what the renewing of the mind truly means. A daily act of surrender, not just in moments of crisis, but in the ordinary hours of life. It's when you pause before reacting, when you breathe before speaking, when you remember that you belong to the one who governs all things. You see, much of our suffering begins not in the world, but in how we think about it. Our minds rehearse pain, replay failure, magnify fear, and yet God invites us into a higher way, to align our thoughts with His truth, to see trials as opportunities for trust, to see delay as the soil where patience grows, to see uncertainty as the place where faith learns to breathe. The problem is not that your mind is too active, it's that it's been focused in the wrong direction. You were created to think deeply, to imagine, to discern, to dream. But when those gifts serve a fear instead of faith, they become heavy. That's why the call is not to empty your mind, but to fill it with the right things, the things that are lovely, pure, and good. When your mind begins to dwell on truth, peace follows naturally, and not because you forced it, but because you gave God permission to lead. That's where real freedom begins, not in trying to fix yourself, but in letting His Spirit renew you from the inside out. He does the transforming, you do the trusting, and this renewal shows up in the smallest moments, when you choose gratitude over complaint, when you choose prayer over panic, when you choose silence over self-defense. That's what it means to rest in Him. Not the absence of activity, but the presence of surrender. Sometimes peace won't feel like a flood. It might come as a whisper, a single moment when the noise inside finally breaks and you hear something deeper. A reminder that you're safe, a promise that you're held, a quiet knowing that you're not alone. Even in the middle of your routine, driving, working, waiting, that whisper can reach you. God's peace is not limited by your schedule. It lives within the surrendered mind, moving through your thoughts like a gentle river that never stops flowing. Do you see how different that is from the way the world teaches you to cope? The world says, control your mind, manage your thoughts, protect your peace. But God says, give them to me. Let me hold what you cannot carry. Because you were never called to manage peace. You were called to receive it. So today, let your renewal begin again, right where you are. Don't wait for everything to calm down around you. Peace begins within you when you lift your mind to heaven. And as you do, you'll notice something. The more your thoughts rest in Him, the more your heart begins to follow. Your emotions stabilize. Your fears lose their authority. And suddenly, your life starts to reflect what's already happening inside. The storm may still rage around you, but it no longer defines you. You begin to live from the inside out, from the peace that comes only from Him. And what happens when the mind that was once restless becomes renewed? It begins to see purpose where there was only pain. It begins to rest not just in God, but with Him. And maybe that's the quiet miracle you've been missing all along. There comes a moment when surrender stops being an idea and becomes a rhythm. When you stop asking, what if it all falls apart? And start believing, even if it does, God will still hold me. That's the turning point. That's when surrender becomes rest. You see, rest isn't just lying still. It's leaning into the one who never changes. It's trusting that while your plans may shift, His promises never do. It's letting go not because you've given up, but because you've finally realized who's strong enough to carry what you can't. When Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary," He wasn't just speaking to the body. He was speaking to the overworked mind. The mind that never stops thinking, planning, fearing. He was saying, lay it down. You don't have to hold this anymore. Because the truth is, rest isn't earned, it's received. And it's received the moment you stop resisting His peace. Think of a child resting in a parent's arms. The child doesn't understand how everything works, but they're safe because they trust the one who holds them. That's the image of surrender. You don't have to understand everything to rest. You just have to know who's with you. And when you begin to live from that place of trust, anxiety loses its grip. You start to notice that worry doesn't serve you anymore. You stop feeding the thoughts that drain your strength. Because when your mind is resting in God, your soul learns a new language, the language of peace. It's not that you'll never have fearful thoughts again. You will. But instead of letting them rule you, you'll learn to hand them back to God faster each time. You'll whisper, "Lord, this thought is too heavy for me. You can have it." And He will take it. Every time. That's the hidden beauty of trust. It's not about trying harder. It's about releasing sooner. The sooner you release, the sooner peace returns. And slowly, you start to notice something sacred. Your reflex changes. Instead of panic, prayer becomes your first response. Instead of overthinking, you learn to breathe, to listen, to wait. Waiting becomes worship. Stillness becomes strength. Silence becomes holy ground. That's how the mind that once spiraled in fear becomes a dwelling place of faith. Sometimes, God won't remove the situation that's testing you, because His goal isn't to calm the storm around you. It's to calm the storm within you. He wants to teach you that peace isn't tied to outcomes. It's tied to His presence. When you live from that truth, everything changes. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop trying to control what was never yours to begin with. And in that release, you find freedom. Not because the world grew lighter, but because your soul stopped carrying what was never meant to be yours. That's the secret of those who walk closely with God. Their circumstances may look chaotic, but inside they are unshaken. Because they have learned this rhythm of trust, this quiet surrender that anchors the mind in divine stillness. And maybe this is what the world needs to see in you. Not a perfect person, but a peaceful one. Someone whose peace makes others wonder what holds them together when everything else is falling apart. So, when the noise rises again, when doubts whisper and deadlines scream, remember this: you don't need to fight the storm. You only need to stay close to the one who speaks to it. He's not asking you to be stronger. He's asking you to stay near. And do you know what happens when you do? Peace stops being something you chase. It becomes who you are. Your mind, once filled with fear, becomes filled with faith. Your thoughts, once restless, start echoing heaven's calm. And the more you rest in Him, the more your life begins to sound like His heart. Steady, faithful, unhurried. There's a kind of peace this world cannot give and cannot take away. It's not the peace of a perfect life, but the peace of a surrendered one. It's the quiet confidence that even in the unknown, God is near, and He is enough. You've learned by now that surrender isn't about losing control. It's about handing it back to the one who was always in control. And when you do, something extraordinary happens inside you. Your thoughts begin to breathe again. Your mind, once restless, learns a new rhythm, the rhythm of grace. It's the rhythm that says, I don't have to understand everything to trust Him. I don't have to see the outcome to rest in His plan. I don't have to carry what He already promised to bear. That's freedom, the freedom of a renewed mind. Because when your thoughts align with His truth, even your struggles start to look different. You begin to see purpose where there was pain, and growth where there was only delay. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start whispering, what are you teaching me here, Lord? And slowly, your whole life becomes prayer. Not a rushed request, but a steady conversation. You find yourself talking to Him while driving, while washing dishes, while walking outside. Your mind, once distracted by noise, becomes a sanctuary, a sacred space where peace is not a visitor, it's the resident. This is what happens when you surrender your mind to God. He doesn't just give you calm, He gives you clarity. He shows you how to live from rest instead of running toward it. And He teaches you that rest isn't inactivity. It's alignment. It's being in rhythm with the heartbeat of heaven. You start to notice beauty again, in small things. The way sunlight touches the window, the quiet kindness of someone who smiles when they don't have to, the stillness in prayer that feels like home. That's the life God intended for you. A life anchored in peace, not in performance. And yes, the world will still pull at your thoughts. The enemy will still try to fill your mind with fear. But now, you know where to turn. You know whose voice to follow. You know that peace is not a place. It's a person. So, when the night feels long, whisper His name. When your mind starts racing again, lift it toward heaven. When you feel weary, remember His promise. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Because rest is not something you visit. It's something you live from. And that's your calling. To live from peace, to think from heaven, to walk in quiet trust even when you don't know what comes next. Your thoughts belong to Him now. Your worries too. And as you walk through each day, you can breathe this prayer. Lord, keep my mind in You. Guard my heart in Your peace. Teach me to rest where You are, because He will. He always does. The same God who calmed the storm with a word can calm the storm within you. So, take one last deep breath. Let go again, not because everything is fixed, but because He is faithful. Let His peace fill the space that fear once occupied, and as your mind rests, your life will begin to follow. You'll notice that even when the world trembles, your soul remains steady. Even when plans change, your confidence doesn't, because you've built your mind upon the unshakable truth of His love. And now, it's your turn to live it. Surrender your mind to God. Rest in Him, and let your peace become your witness, a quiet light in a restless world. If this message spoke to your heart, take a moment to reflect. Breathe, pray, and if you'd like to keep walking this path of peace with us, subscribe to this channel, share this video, and let others know that rest is still possible, even here, even now, because the one who holds your mind is the same one who holds your future, and He never lets go.